Hello. This video is entitled Alignment Fundamentals. The information in this video is intended to give an overview of what an alignment is, a little bit about how we approach it here at Kiever Auto and Ag, and most importantly, just to give a broad overview of the common terms, most important aspects of alignment. This is not intended to be a technician training video. In other words, you're not going to be able to go do an alignment after this video. You're not going to be able to necessarily even diagnose the problems that come from alignment, but you will know all the terms that are of key importance. And likewise, if you're a service advisor, this is not going to be how do I sell an alignment to a customer or how do I explain an alignment to a customer. This falls under the category of you understanding what an alignment is prior to trying to explain it to a customer, and it's also going to allow you to be able to talk with a tech. So, right off the start, there are some key concepts that you have to understand. Those are the three angles that we are most concerned with when dealing with alignment. The first one is camber. The second one is caster. The third one is toe. That is actually in descending order of importance, but when people talk about alignment, that's the order they put them in. It rolls off the tongue a lot better. Camber, caster, toe. So, well, I actually misspoke already. That's not actually in descending order, it's scrambled order. But let's go ahead and jump on the one that's the most important angle. It's the most important one for you to understand. It's the most important one for the customer to understand. It's the most important one to make the car drive the way it's supposed to and to make the tires wear the way they're supposed to. That is toe. Toe is the angle that measures whether the tires point towards each other going down the highway or away from each other going down the highway. It is the primary tire wearing angle. I forget the numbers, but for every degree of toe that it's off, it's equivalent to dragging that tire physically sideways like 100 feet per mile that the car goes down the highway. So it's a very aggressive wear problem if the toe is not adjusted properly. It will eat up tires faster than anything else. So toe is the primary angle that has to be adjusted and that needs to be checked anytime there's an alignment problem or new tires are installed. Okay. Most of the wear problems you're going to find that are caused by alignment, now hear me, alignment, not worn out parts on the steering or suspension, but most of the tire wear problems caused by alignment are going to be related to toe adjustment. Okay. The goal on toe is to have it neutral, meaning they're straightforward or slightly positive, slightly aiming towards each other. That's called positive toe. Outward is negative toe. We want them to be neutral or slightly positive. Reason for that is it will help the car go straight down the road and return to center after going around a corner. If you have negative toe, the steering will be unresponsive and it will tend to dart one way or the other because you've got to overcome. If you've got two tires going like this, okay, one's pulling this way, one's pulling that way, well, you've got to turn that thing quite a ways before you get enough pull. Say you're going left. If you get enough pull left, you've got to get this one over center before it wants to go. But by the time it gets over center, this one's pointing way over there, so it's going to dart on you. So your steering is going to feel unresponsive and darty when it does turn. So anyway, toe, number one most important angle. Second one, it's also so it is the most important wear angle, but it also does have some impact on steering control. Good to know that's primarily a wear angle, but also control angle. Camber. Camber is almost 100% a wear angle. Now it is the secondary wear angle. Camber is whether the wheel leans in towards the center line of the car or out away from the center line of the car at the top of the wheel. Okay, camber can make a vehicle have a pull, and it can make the tires wear. It does have an impact on steering control, but not as drastically as the other two measurements. Positive camber leans away from the vehicle. Negative camber leans towards the vehicle. Now, that seems backwards considering what we just learned about toe, but let me do a little sidebar here and explain something. This may be too technical for a service advisor, but just bear with me. The reason alignment periodically is necessary is because as a vehicle ages and components wear and springs fatigue and, you're hitting bumps at 70, 80 miles an hour, the way the alignment measurements are set up is positive has to be adjusted there by and large. Now, accidents, if something gets in a crash or has physical damage, things can be different. But as a rule, positive measurements must be put there by you adjusting it. Okay, so the natural wear and tear on the vehicle is always going to take the measurements negative. So if you've got your toe positive, they're pointed away from each other. Every time when you're going down the road, what's the constant push? The constant push is backwards, which causes those to come out. Okay, as your bushings wear and things lean backwards, that toe comes out. Same thing happens with your camber. You have to set it out like this because gravity wants to pull it in, right? If think about it, if you're standing on ice, which one takes effort to keep your legs together or to slip and have them go out? Obviously, you know the answer. Same thing happens with camber. Over time, it goes negative, so it starts leaning in towards the vehicle. So that's why, with the center line being positive on toe, it can get confusing because center line is negative with camber. Okay, so camber is the second most aggressive tire wearing angle. It will not affect as drastically as toe will, and we don't get as worried about it when we're adjusting, but camber will wear tires and it will create a pull if you've got positive camber over here and negative camber over here. Well, car's going to go to the right. So toe and camber are our tire wearing angles. They do play a role in control of the vehicle because if you've got negative camber, actually gives you better vehicle control, just because they're the weight of the car is coming into its own center line. But what you need to remember, camber and toe are the tire wearing angles. Those are the two that we are going to be working to adjust during an alignment. Primarily. The third angle is caster. Caster is a control angle. The only way caster can become a wear angle is if it is so drastically out of spec that it causes the vehicle to have a pull. Because anytime you've got a pull, you're going to have tire wear because you're constantly fighting that pull and you're holding the tires sideways, you're steering them sideways, so in effect you're manually putting toe on the tires, and that's going to wear things, even though you could bring it in, put it on a rack, and have camber and toe be perfect, but still have wear that looks like toe wear. Okay, but it's going to be on the outside of one tire and on the inside of the other if it's pulling due to camber or caster, excuse me. So caster is only a wear angle if it is so far out of adjustment that it causes a pull that has to be constantly corrected for. Otherwise, caster is a control angle only. Okay. Caster is the measurement of the angle formed when you draw an imaginary line between the lower pivot point of your front steering knuckle and the upper pivot point of your front steering knuckle, and then compare that to plumb. Plumb is straight up and down, okay? And back in the old days, some vehicles were designed by manufacturers to actually have negative caster. Nowadays, they're pretty much all, I'm not aware of any that have negative caster. Caster is considered positive. This is another tricky one. It's considered positive if the angle leans to the rear of the car. So the front of the car is over here, straight up and down's here. That imaginary line is going to come in here like this. The best way to visualize this is to think of the front fork on a motorcycle, like a Harley Davidson or a chopper, especially because they really lean those things out. That is positive camber when this being the front, when you have what we call a rake that goes like this. The best way to visualize it is the front fork of a motorcycle, because we've all seen how it leans way out away from the bike. Now, interesting thing with caster, the sportier the suspension design, the less caster you will have. Think of a sport bike now versus that chopper. It's going to stand up much, much straighter than that chopper, and that's so that you can make quick turns, okay? And makes the steering more responsive. Every adjustment creates a larger effect, all right? So if you have a Cadillac on the alignment rack, you're going to see a much higher caster spec than if you have a Corvette on the rack, okay? Because of how they've got the steering tuned and the suspension tuned for a sports car versus a luxury car. Generally speaking, the more caster, the smoother the ride, the less steering effort that has to be put in. Luxury cars are going to have a lot of caster. Trucks and sports cars are going to have less caster. Okay, anything else I need to cover on caster? One more thing about it being a control angle. One of the main things that caster does, beyond just making the car want to go straight on its own, that's when you lean those wheels back, you make the car want to go straight on its own. But along with that, caster will actually help the car come back to center after you've been on a corner. It has to do with how the angles lay out. The outside wheel on a vehicle, as you turn well, that's too technical for this video. Anyway, remember, caster will help a vehicle go down the highway straight, and it will also help you return to center with less effort after you go around a curve or turn a corner. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go through our process a little bit here too, because this is important not only for technicians but also for service advisors, because we all need to understand how we approach alignment here so that we can all be on the same page. first and foremost, anytime there is question of whether or not there's a concern with alignment or if we're just simply doing an alignment check, the first step always, always, always is road test the vehicle. We need to drive it and see what that vehicle is doing. Is there a pull? Is there, a vibration? What's the customer concern? Figure it out. Vibration is not caused by alignment. Period. End of story. A vibration is never caused by alignment. One more time. Vibration is never caused by alignment. If a customer has a vibration and they ask for an alignment, they need to have it explained that an alignment will not fix a vibration. A vibration is a balance issue or a worn out part issue. It is not alignment. Well, I guess if you've got a worn out part, you're going to have an alignment issue also, but I guess that brings me to another point. We cannot align cars that have worn out parts. Period. End of story. That is actually point number 2 in our process. After the road test is made and after all problems and performance issues are noted, pay attention whether the steering wheel's off center. Pay attention whether the car wants to pull to the left, to the right. Pay attention if it feels like it won't turn as short to the left as to the right. Those are things you're looking for on your road test. Second step is to inspect the steering and suspension components to determine the ability to provide an accurate alignment. If you have worn out parts in the steering or suspension, you cannot align the vehicle. Period. No matter what, you can't align a vehicle that has worn out parts. Okay. Number 3, the next step is we're going to measure the alignment angles and we're going to determine necessary adjustments. Now, that goes into another set of concerns that are going to be for a tech, but you need to know how to go about that adjustment, what order to do it in, what should be messed with, what shouldn't, all that. But our general process, we measure the alignment angles and we determine the necessary adjustments. Step number 4, we report the findings to get approval for the adjustment. We do not do a one-size-fits-all alignment where every car gets aligned and it costs X dollars. We don't do that because we know that doesn't serve the customer. So we get the measurements, then we report back what needs adjusted and explain what it's going to take to adjust it and what the benefits are. There are times that we may have a tow adjustment pre-approved. In fact, that's the way I would prefer it done, because most of the time that's really what needs adjusted, more so than the other two. Okay, so step number 5, make approved adjustments. If you've taken the measurements and it only needs a tow adjustment, go ahead and adjust the tow, finish it up. If it needs other things, wait for approval, then make the approved adjustments. Number 6, road test to verify a proper alignment. Now, this should go without saying, but if somebody brings their car in for an alignment, it needs to leave our shop with the steering wheel straight, the vehicle driving straight, and a printout that shows what we adjusted. Okay, going back to step 1, if at step 6 you've aligned the vehicle and you've got a pull to the right, and you didn't road test the vehicle before you brought it on the rack, but you've adjusted everything to spec, where do you go from here? Did it have a pull to the right before you drove it? The customer says it was pulling to the left, but did you verify it? If you didn't verify it, you don't know what was going on, so you don't know where to go from here. You're just going to have to bring it in and start readjusting again. It might just be that you need to cross-rotate tires, but you don't know that because you didn't road test it. So anyway, I'm done harping on that. The process, again, let's run through them. Number 1, road test the vehicle. Number 2, inspect steering and suspension components. Number 3, measure angles and report findings. Number 4, I skipped one there. Let's back up, start over. Number 1, road test the vehicle. Number 2, inspect steering and suspension. Number 3, measure angles and determine necessary adjustments. Number 4, report findings to get approval. Number 5, make approved adjustments. And number 6, road test to verify the alignment. So, quick recap. The 3 most important concepts to understand dealing with alignment are those 3 angles that we measure. We got camber, caster, toe. Camber and toe are wear angles, toe being the primary wear angle. Caster is the primary control angle, but the other 2 also contribute to it. Toe is what's most commonly adjusted and also provided for by the manufacturer. That is the most basic form of alignment, is a toe adjustment. Our process is that we road test the vehicle before we start working on it. We inspect the steering and suspension components before we attempt to take measurements. We take the measurements and determine the necessary adjustments before we report the findings. Then we report the findings to get approval for the adjustments. Then we make the approved adjustments, and finally we road test the vehicle after the alignment to verify everything is good. So that's it.